Yeah.
Do you think there's anybody who is in a very strong position of influence who's actually doing a good job, like someone you admire who's like, okay, yeah, he's doing a good job, like he's actually trying to make a positive difference to the world?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because all you can go off of is perception, and perception is controlled, right? So whether you're an influencer, that's a small one or a big one, whatever content you put out ends up being how people perceive you. So what if the people that run the world understand how to control that narrative? Anybody that's in a government institution,
Hmm.
I just automatically don't trust them because I don't truly think that we need big government the way that it's being pushed on us. I don't believe in this source of controlled authority over mass amounts of people, and the ones that are like, oh, well, Luke's talking out of his ass, or Luke doesn't understand that you do need government. Well, you've never lived in a situation whereby you've actually had deep levels of freedom. And when I tell people, let's say you were a society that was in slavery, and let's say you're born in year 200 of that 400-year cycle of slavery, you have no concept of freedom. You have
Hmm.
no concept whatsoever of what it means to be autonomous. Today, we look at the US dollar built on the fiat system, a massive way to control society by printing money out of thin air and getting people employed. That's why they're called human resources, right? Because you're
Mm.
just an expendable resource for creating, building all these things that are pretty much propped off of debt and off of fiat. It's pretty much slavery, right? And yeah, certain people can get out of it. Certain people can, finesse their way to the top. And like I said, the internet kind of is giving people the opportunity to do that. But most people end up living lives of what I like to call quiet desperation. And they are pretty much slaves to their 9 to 5. They're slaves to the preconceived notions of how one should actually go about making money or building a business. And in my opinion, these are all mechanisms of control to subdue society and control society at mass scale, keep people broke. In the US, for example, everything's on credit and everything's on debt. Oh, you want to get a house? Okay, perfect. Get a mortgage. Mortgage is a loan. Oh, you want to get a car? Perfect. Here's a car payment.
Mm.
You want to get, you want, they sell iPhones on payment plans. Everything's on a payment plan. That's all debt. It's all propped up by something that's not real. What's a 30-year mortgage? Imagine getting a 30-year mortgage at the age of 60. What are you going to pay it off when you're 90?
Mm.
It's not real. It's bullshit. So in the 40s and the 50s, when people were working at factories before the dollar was hijacked by the Federal Reserve and removed off of the gold standard, you would work 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a factory, make your $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year, and in 2 years you would buy a house, you would buy a car. You wouldn't have to work 10 years in order to afford a place to live. And that all comes down to the fact that the money printers are the way to steal from people through inflation and through the debasement of currency, which is why what we're seeing nowadays. Like I said, unless you understand monetary policy, unless you understand that finance is the new language of the elite, just like back in the day, Latin used to be the language that the church would utilize to control the peasants. Instead of teaching the peasants Latin, or in this case, the peasants nowadays finance, you would have the Pope or you would have the minister be the one that was the middleman between you and God. And that's why when you look at the US dollar, it says, "In God we trust." It's
Mm.
really funny because you're not trusting in your own ability to decipher what's taking place. You're going off of a middleman. If you look at the tax code, it's 4, 5, 6,000 pages long. Who has time to read that? Who has time to actually understand what's taking place or if what we're being taxed is legitimate or fair or constitutional or even legal? They don't. So people nowadays are really much trusting
Hmm.
off of big organizations, and anything that has an acronym as an organization, whether it starts with an F or whether it starts with a C, all these crazy ones that I'm not going to say just in case we end up being in a bad situation. Uh, you need to be very skeptical